Most gardeners think autumn is the end of the show. Tools get packed away, the beds are left bare, and everyone just settles in to wait for spring. But here's the truth, and it's the secret to a garden that wakes up dazzling. October and November are not the end. They are the golden months. They are your chance to plant perennial superstars that will explode with blooms, feed early pollinators, and completely transform your garden next year, while everyone else is still waiting for their first green shoot. I'm talking about 11 must-plant perennials that thrive when put in the ground right now. And trust me, perennial number 1 is the easiest, most breathtaking autumn bloomer you'll ever grow, giving you color right when you need it most. Before we unlock the secret to year-round perennial beauty, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't miss weekly perennial tips that keep your garden thriving no matter the season, no matter your hardiness zone. Let's get growing. Number 11. Peonies. Now, if you want massive, dinner plate-sized, heavily scented blooms next spring, you must plant your peonies now, in October or early November. This isn't just a suggestion, it's practically a rule for peony success. Peonies are notoriously slow to establish. They don't like being rushed. Planting the bare root divisions, which is how they are typically sold in the fall, in cool autumn soil gives those large, fleshy roots the necessary long, cool, chilling period they need. This stratification is crucial for bloom production. If you wait until spring, you're robbing the plant of this essential time, and you might have to wait an extra year for flowers. When you plant peonies, the most common mistake gardeners make is planting them too deep. I want you to remember this specific measurement whether you are in Zone 3, like Minnesota, or Zone 8, like Seattle. When planting the bare root, make sure the small pink or red buds, which are called the eyes, are positioned no more than 2 inches below the soil surface. Too deep, and they won't bloom. They'll just give you beautiful green foliage, which is nice, but not what you planted them for. Before we move on to our next plant, I want to know, what's your dream color for peonies? That classic blush pink? A deep, commanding red? Or that rare creamy white? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. 10. Daffodils or Narcissus. Daffodils are technically bulbs, but because they naturalize, meaning they come back, multiply, and spread on their own year after year, they are absolute superstars in the perennial bed. Daffodil bulbs must be planted in the autumn because, like peonies, they require a prolonged cold period, a proper winter chilling, to initiate the biochemical process that tells them to create flowers. This is why you can't buy a daffodil bulb in spring and expect a flower that year. You must get them in the ground now, while soil temperatures are between 40 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This plant is incredibly resilient and is a perfect choice if you deal with deer or squirrels because the bulbs contain an alkaloid that makes them completely unpalatable to pests. This is a massive win for gardeners in rural areas of the US and Canada. Most people plant daffodils one by one, like soldiers, in a straight line. I want you to plant them like a painter, not a technician. For a truly stunning impact, I want you to grab a handful of bulbs, say 10 to 12, and just gently toss them onto the ground where you want them. Plant them exactly where they land. This creates a much more natural, visually impactful grouping. And remember the general rule, plant the bulb with the pointed side up at a depth that is about 2 to 3 times the height of the bulb itself. Picture this. You are standing in your garden in late March, perhaps in Zone 6 in New Jersey or Zone 7 in the UK. The trees are still bare. Maybe there's a stubborn patch of snow melting nearby. And then there it is. a stunning river of golden butter-yellow daffodils running along your border, the earliest, brightest signal that winter is truly over. Don't forget that jumpstart advantage. The roots these daffodils are making right now mean they'll be ready to shoot up the moment the ground thaws. Are you a daffodil purist who loves the classic yellow trumpet, or are you a tulip lover who prefers those vibrant, endless colors? Let me know in the comments. Coneflowers, Echinacea. This is a plant that truly thrives in the autumn planting window, especially for gardeners looking to establish a robust, low-maintenance garden. Coneflowers are tap-rooted. They send down a massive, deep main root, which helps them survive drought and intense heat later. When you plant them as small plants or divisions in the fall, you give that crucial taproot months to establish itself deep in the soil before it has to deal with the demands of summer flowering. Planting them now ensures they are deeply anchored and ready for a summer explosion. They are incredibly hardy, generally happy from USDA zones 3 all the way up to 9, meaning nearly every gardener in the USA and Canada can enjoy them. Coneflowers love well-drained soil and sun. When planting, mix in some coarse sand or grit, especially if you have heavy clay soil. This is critical because their taproot will rot if they sit in standing water over the winter. Bonus tip: don't be too neat in the fall. After they bloom next summer, deadhead lightly, but leave some of those prominent seed heads standing through the late fall and winter. This provides much-needed food from native birds, turning your winter garden into a lively wildlife haven. Keep watching and subscribe. We're about to move into the Daylilies and Hostas, two plants that are so tough they're practically indestructible, and planting them now gives you an incredible edge. 8. Daylilies, Hemerocallis. If there is such a thing as an indestructible plant, the daylily is it. They are often called the perfect perennial because they tolerate almost any soil, they handle drought, they laugh at pests, and they come back reliably year after year, often improving with age. They are hardy across an enormous range, typically USDA zones 3 through 9. Daylilies are powerhouses of root growth. When you plant their bare root divisions or potted plants in October, you're not just giving them a head start, you're letting them put down their thick, fleshy roots in the perfect, cool, moist soil conditions. This allows them to become fully established before they ever have to flower. If you plant daylilies in the spring, they focus their energy on creating those famous trumpet-shaped blooms, which drains their reserve. Plant them now, and they spend the winter building an internal reserve of energy, guaranteeing a thicker, more floriferous clump next summer. Daylilies can get crowded over the years. October is not only the best time to plant them, but also the absolute best time to divide them. If you have a clump that hasn't bloomed well in a year or two, a clear sign it's overcrowded, dig it up now. Use a sharp shovel to chop the clump into smaller sections, making sure each new division has a decent crown and a handful of roots. Replant the divisions immediately. This simple October chore is your ticket to getting 4 or 5 new plants for the price of 0, and it completely revitalizes the blooming power of the old clump. Imagine this. Next July, while you're lounging on the porch with a cold drink, you see great, sweeping waves of orange, yellow, and perhaps even deep purple daylilies lining your long driveway or walkway. They require no fuss, no spraying, and barely any watering. They just open their cheerful, trumpet-like faces every morning, giving you effortless color through the worst of the summer heat. This is the reward for the few minutes of work you put in this autumn. Daylilies have hundreds of cultivars. Which colored daylily screams effortless summer to you? The classic bright orange, a sunny yellow, or a sophisticated burgundy? Let me know in the comments. I love finding new varieties. 7. Hostas. Hostas are the undisputed king of the shade garden. They come in an unbelievable array of colors, from deep forest green to powder blue, and they can be tiny ground covers or massive tropical-looking specimens that dwarf a bushel basket. They are tough, cold-tolerant plants, generally happy from zone 3 up to zone 9. When the leaves begin to drop and the shade trees start to go dormant, the ground beneath them becomes the ideal planting environment. Fall planting allows the hosta's roots to grow undisturbed without the plant having to put energy into developing its enormous leaves. It establishes a huge underground network that will be ready to power up those bold tropical leaves the moment the soil warms up in spring. If you wait until spring, the rapid flush of foliage can actually exhaust a newly planted hosta before its roots are ready to support it. Plant now for robust leaf growth. The key to winter survival for hostas, particularly in the colder Canadian and northern U.S. zones, is insulation and drainage. After planting, I want you to mulch heavily. Not just a thin dusting, but a thick 4 to 6 inch blanket of shredded leaves or wood chips around the crown, but not touching it. This acts as a cozy blanket, preventing the ground from rapidly freezing and thawing, which can heave the shallow roots out of the soil. Picture your darkest, shadiest spot, the area that always looks dull and empty in early spring. Now picture that space transformed. As soon as the frost melts, you see these bold, textured, sometimes blue, sometimes variegated leaves unfurling. They catch the dappled light beautifully, creating a tropical, vibrant look where only dirt existed before. This dramatic transformation is simply the payoff for fall preparation. We've seen the power of fall roots, but stick with me and subscribe because the next plant is one of the most fragrant perennials you can plant, and the simple trick for it is all about the way you manage its moisture. And then we hit the first of our iconic bulbs. 6. Lavender. This is a Mediterranean native, and while it might seem like a tricky plant, planting it in the fall, specifically an English variety like Munstead or Hidcote, which are hardy down to zone 5, gives it its best chance at long-term survival in North America and the UK. Lavender's biggest enemy isn't the cold, it's wet feet. Root rot caused by soggy soil in winter. Planting it in the fall allows the plant to naturally harden off. The cold, dry air of autumn encourages the plant to slow its growth and prepare for dormancy, making it more resilient to winter moisture than if you planted it during a wet spring. Because of the wet feet problem, the bonus tip here is crucial. Plant in slightly raised beds or mounds. Before you plant your lavender plant, amend your soil heavily with coarse sand or grit and some compost. The goal is to make the soil so well draining that water never sits near the roots. Creating a slight mound, say 6 to 8 inches high, ensures that during snowmelt or heavy winter rain, the water immediately drains away from the crown of the plant. This simple technique is the secret to year after year lavender success, especially in heavy clay soils common in the northeast U.S. and parts of the U.K. Imagine stepping out next June. You brush past a low-growing hedge of silvery green lavender, and immediately a cloud of earthy, sweet, calming fragrance is released into the air. Picture those upright spikes of deep purple flowers humming with honeybees. It's a sensory experience, a little piece of Provence right in your backyard, all because you paid attention to drainage this October. Do you use lavender more as a culinary herb, in tea, baked goods, or seasonings? Or do you use it for pure aerotherapy in sachets, baths, and essential oils? Let me know your favorite use. 5. Tulips. Tulipa. While technically a bulb, the tulip is one of the most popular and necessary items to plant now for that stunning, high-impact perennial look next spring. Unlike daffodils, many modern tulips are often treated as annuals because they don't return reliably. But if you select species tulips or Darwin hybrids and plant them correctly, they behave like true perennials. Like all spring blooming bulbs, tulips require a full 12 to 14 weeks of chilling, a cold period below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, to trigger the internal mechanism that makes them flower. Planting them in October or November is absolutely mandatory to ensure they get the deep cold they need to perform next spring. The planting hack. The lasagna planting method. This is the ultimate hack for stunning spring containers. Instead of planting a single type of bulb, you layer them in a large pot like a lasagna. You start with the deepest layer, late-blooming tulips. Cover them with soil. The middle layer gets mid-season tulips or daffodils. Cover that layer. The top, shallowest layer gets tiny early-blooming bulbs like crocus or grape hyacinth. By April, your porch containers look like fireworks exploding in continuous bloom. First, the small crocus appear. When they fade, the mid-season tulips take over. Then, as those finish, the massive, late-blooming tulip heads rise up. This is a 3-month-long spring show, a container that never stops giving, simply because you layered those bulbs in the fall. You get vibrant, concentrated color that looks professionally designed. We're halfway there. We still have the magnificent Rudbeckia, the cascading Phlox, the elegant iris, and of course, the #1 autumn superstar that will be blooming when the snow flies. Stick around because the next 3 plants are the easiest perennial wins you'll ever get. 4. Rudbeckia, also known as black-eyed Susans. We have a perennial that truly embodies the cheerful, persistent spirit of the American. 4. Rudbeckia, also known as black-eyed Susans. We have a perennial that truly embodies the cheerful, persistent spirit of the American garden, Rudbeckia, more commonly known as black-eyed Susans. These are cousins to the coneflower, but they bring a different kind of sunny energy. They're incredibly vigorous and easy to grow, happily naturalizing across nearly every U.S. and Canadian growing region, thriving from USDA Zone 3 up to Zone 9. They are the embodiment of resilience. Rudbeckia is a perennial that really benefits from the deep establishment time of the fall. When you plant them as small divisions or potted plants now, their strong, fibrous roots can settle in the cool soil, creating a massive crown. This means that next summer, instead of 1 or 2 blooms, you get a sprawling, dense patch of gold. If you wait until spring, the plant has to play catch-up, often leading to smaller, less impressive first-year growth. Fall planting ensures a full, glorious carpet of gold when you need it most. This is where we talk about managing winter and wildlife. Leave the seed heads. Unlike many flowers we are tempted to deadhead, the seed heads of Rudbeckia are highly attractive to small songbirds like goldfinches. They will perch on the dried stems, picking out the tiny seeds throughout the winter. This means your garden doesn't just shut down when the cold hits. It becomes a living bird feeder, adding movement and life to the dormant season. As a bonus, leaving the stem standing helps catch snow, which provides a natural, insulating blanket for the crowns below. Picture your late summer garden, that moment when the tulips and peonies are long gone and the heat has turned everything a little dusty. But suddenly, your Rudbeckia patch is glowing. You see masses of deep golden petals surrounding a distinctive dark brown central cone. The color is so vivid, it looks like sunshine poured right onto the petals, even as the season begins to fade. That golden glow in August and September is the direct reward for planting this workhorse right now. We're about to dive into a plant that creates a sea of color, a living carpet of pink and purple. It's an instant win for gardeners who want high-impact results with almost zero effort. 3. Phlox. We are talking about both creeping phlox, Phlox subulata, and the taller garden phlox, Phlox aniculata, both of which are phenomenal choices for fall planting. They are reliably hardy from zones 3 all the way through 8. Phlox is known for having fairly shallow, dense root systems. Planting these crowns in the fall is beneficial because the cool, damp soil of October encourages the roots to spread laterally without the risk of drying out. The plant settles in, anchoring itself over the winter, and is ready for an early spring sprint. For creeping phlox especially, getting those roots settled now prevents the risk of spring heaving, where the freezing and thawing cycle pushes the new, tender roots out of the soil. When planted in the fall, those roots grip the soil tightly, ensuring a dense display. Division and mulching. If you have established clumps of tall garden phlox that are getting bare in the center, October is the ideal time to rejuvenate them. Dig up the entire clump, discard the woody, unproductive center, and replant the vigorous outer pieces. This fall division ensures better airflow, prevents disease, and guarantees a much denser, more vigorous display next spring. After planting or dividing, a light layer of mulch will help keep the soil consistently cool and moist for the newly spreading roots. For the creeping phlox, visualize a steep slope, a retaining wall, or a border edge. Next April, that entire space is a sea of pink, purple, or pure white ground cover. It rolls across the landscape like a living carpet. For the tall garden phlox, picture dense, colorful, fragrant bouquets held high on stiff stems throughout the summer. That incredible, unstoppable, massed color is the gift of a successful fall planting. 2. Irises. We're focusing on the bearded irises, the classic perennial that stands tall and proud in the spring and early summer garden. They are unbelievably tough and suitable for nearly all temperate climates across the US, UK, and Canada, typically from zones 3 to 9. Irises are grown from rhizomes, which are thickened, modified stems that store energy. Fall planting is crucial for irises because the rhizome needs time to establish tiny feeder roots before winter. If planted too late, these feeder roots won't develop, and the rhizome may rot or freeze when the cold hits. Planting now gives it the perfect window of mild soil temperatures to anchor itself securely for the winter. Keep the knees exposed. This is the biggest secret to perennial iris success. Unlike bulbs, the top of the iris rhizome must be partially exposed to the sun and air, or just barely covered with soil. Think of it like a kneeling knee. The top should be visible. If you bury the rhizome too deep, it will rot, or it simply won't bloom. When planting, dig a shallow trench. Place the rhizome so the roots hang down and pack the soil around the roots, leaving the top half exposed to dry in the sun. Picture your garden in late spring. Tall, elegant stalks emerge, topped with spectacular, complicated blooms that look like flags in the breeze. Maybe a dramatic black, a deep blue, or a striking yellow and purple combination. They stand like proud sentinels, adding a level of vertical drama and sophistication that few other flowers can match. Be honest, irises have a very distinct, often spicy sweet scent. Do you love the scent of irises, or do you love the amazing structural look more? Let me know which one wins for you. We've now covered 10 spectacular perennials, from the elegant iris to the rugged Rudbeckia. Remember the jumpstart advantage. Every single plant we discussed, planted now in the cool soil of October and November, is spending its winter building the roots and storing the energy that will result in earlier, bigger, and more robust blooms next season. You are not planting for today. You are planting for a dramatic transformation that starts the moment the snow melts. Now we move on to the grand finale, perennial number 1, the autumn superstar that guarantees you color when everyone else has given up. Number 1. Chrysanthemums, hardy mums. The number 1 must-plant perennial for October and November is the hardy chrysanthemum, or mums dendranthema. Wait, I know what you're thinking. You see mums everywhere in the fall, piled up at the grocery store entrance, used as temporary decor. But here's the crucial distinction. We are not talking about the flimsy florist-grade mums often sold in September. We are talking about hardy garden mums. These varieties are specifically bred to survive the winter and return year after year. They are the ultimate autumn payoff, providing color right when the rest of the garden is saying goodbye. And they are hardy from zone 5 through 9. Unlike the tender florist types, hardy mums need to be planted early in the fall, now in October, so they have enough time to establish their root system before the deep freeze hits. Planting them allows the roots to anchor themselves into the ground, which is key to surviving winter heaving and ensuring they return as a true perennial. When you buy them already in bloom, the plant is spending all its energy on flowers, so getting them into the ground now lets them redirect that energy back into root survival. The secret to those dense, perfect mounds of mums isn't magic, it's pinching. Next spring and early summer, you need to pinch the growing tips of your mum plants every 2 to 3 weeks until about the 4th of July. This simple action forces the plant to branch out, resulting in a low, bushy plant that is absolutely covered in blooms come autumn. Also, plant them in the sunniest spot you have for the best flower production. It's late October. The leaves are gone. The world is turning gray, but your porch, your patio, and your walkway are absolutely glowing. You see dense, perfect mounds of golden, ruby red, and deep purple mums. They look robust, cheerful, and defiant against the cold. Your neighbors have bare steps, but you have a continuous, vibrant color show that lasts until the snow truly flies. This is the definition of extending your garden season, achieved simply by planting the right variety at the right time. I promised you one secret perennial that pays you back year after year without ever replanting. It's not just one specific plant, it's a category. Self-seeding perennials. Many of the plants we discussed, like coneflowers, Rudbeckia, and even certain Phlox, will drop their seeds when you leave the seed heads standing. That was our bonus tip. These seeds then get naturally stratified by the winter cold, and next spring they germinate on their own, giving you a continuous supply of free baby plants. The trick is knowing when to clean up. Don't cut everything down to the ground right after the first frost. Leave those seed heads standing until early spring. Not only does this feed the birds and insulate the ground, but it ensures those little seed babies get scattered naturally, filling in gaps in your border. You are essentially turning your garden into a self-sustaining ecosystem. This low-effort, high-reward technique is why perennial gardening is so deeply satisfying. Now picture yourself stepping outside next March or April. The air is cool, but the ground isn't silent. Your hostas are unfurling bold leaves. Your daylilies are pushing up thick new shoots. Your daffodils and tulips are announcing spring with trumpet blasts of color. You have blooms everywhere, fragrance in the air, and your neighbors, the ones who put their tools away back in September, are asking you, "What is your secret? How do you have so much color so early?" Your secret? You knew that the best time to plant for next spring is right now. Which of these 11 perennial superstars are you most excited to plant this October or November? Is it the massive peony, the fragrant lavender, or the unstoppable Rudbeckia? Drop it below. I read every single comment. Tell me which one you're grabbing this weekend. And if this detailed guide gave you one idea to transform your autumn garden into next spring's showstopper, imagine what's coming next week. Subscribe and join a community of North American and UK gardeners who believe every season deserves beauty and who plant smart, not hard. Thank you so much for watching, and happy planting!